If you've been following WWE recently, you know things haven't been going well for the Beast. After being linked to a troubling lawsuit connected to Vince McMahon, Brock's name was pulled into one of the darkest scandals the company has ever seen.
Look at the range of the face, in the eyes.
And let's just say the details are very dark.
Vince has instructed her to make sexual pictures and videos to send Brock Lesnar, part of some sort of negotiation he was having with.
So what exactly did Brock say? Why was he removed from one of WWE's biggest events of the year? And most importantly, what does this mean for his future in wrestling? Let's dive in. The Royal Rumble is one of WWE's most exciting events of the year, a stage where surprises happen, legends return, and storylines heat up on the road to WrestleMania. For years, Lesnar has been a Royal Rumble fixture, whether it was as a powerhouse clearing the ring or making shocking returns that sent the crowd into chaos. From his memorable 2003 Rumble win to his incredible 2020 run where he eliminated 13 superstars in a row, Lesnar has constantly redefined what dominance looks like in this match. His appearances have always been must-see moments, whether he entered first or showed up unannounced. But this year was different because the Beast wasn't there. Reports from wrestling outlets like WrestleTalk confirmed there was no sign of Lesnar being part of the 2025 Royal Rumble, and this wasn't a creative twist to shock the fans or shake things up. There appears to be a much more serious reason behind his absence. What makes this particularly interesting is that this marks the second consecutive Royal Rumble that Lesnar has missed after reportedly being pulled from the 2024 event at the last minute. Back in 2024, he was replaced by Braun Breaker, who essentially took on the role that was planned for Lesnar in the match. But why would WWE sideline one of their biggest stars for 2 straight years during one of their most important events? The answer, it seems, lies in a lawsuit that has sent shockwaves through the wrestling world. The saga begins in January 2024, when former WWE employee Janelle Grant filed a lawsuit against Vince McMahon, WWE, and John Laurinaitis, alleging sex trafficking, physical and emotional abuse, sexual assault, and negligence. The lawsuit was explosive, filled with disturbing claims that eventually forced Vince McMahon to resign as executive chairman of TKO Group, WWE's parent company, later that month. At first, Lesnar wasn't mentioned directly, but there were vague references to a former WWE and UFC champion, and many believed those hints were pointing at him. Even those indirect mentions were enough for WWE to pull him from the 2024 Royal Rumble at the very last moment. But things escalated even further right before the 2025 Royal Rumble. On January 31st, 2025, just one day before the event, Grant's legal team filed an amended lawsuit that named Brock Lesnar outright. The timing could not have been worse for WWE or for Lesnar's chances of appearing in the match. The updated complaint included serious allegations, claiming that during contract negotiations in 2021, McMahon offered Grant to Lesnar for sex and pressured her to create personalized content for him. The lawsuit also claims that a planned encounter between Lesnar and Grant never took place because Lesnar was either too intoxicated or unable to travel due to bad weather. It's important to note that Lesnar is not listed as a defendant in this case. He is mentioned in the allegations, but is not being sued directly. Still, being tied to accusations this serious has had a major impact on his WWE career. The Times of India reported that his appearance at the 2025 Royal Rumble was highly unlikely because of the situation, and that prediction came true when he did not show up at the event. Wrestling outlets like PW Insider Elite and Fightful Select even confirmed there was no talk backstage about including him in the match. This is a huge change for a performer of Lesnar's level, especially considering that since his return to WWE in 2012, he has been one of the company's most dominant stars. This is Brock Lesnar, and this is the Beast incarnate. A true powerhouse with crossover appeal from his UFC success, Lesnar's absence from major events like the Royal Rumble isn't just a small detail, it's a major development that highlights how serious these allegations are. What makes this even more interesting is that despite being kept off television, Lesnar is still officially listed on the WWE roster, and is sometimes mentioned in promos through nicknames or indirect references. This shows that WWE hasn't completely cut ties with him, but is clearly being cautious with his public appearances while the legal issues continue. It's also worth noting that WWE, now under TKO Group Holdings after its 2023 merger with UFC, seems focused on moving away from the McMahon era and its controversies. Keeping Lesnar off TV is likely part of that larger effort to protect the company's image while under legal scrutiny. And in Lesnar's case, the situation becomes even more complicated because this isn't the first time he's been linked to controversy. Throughout his career in both WWE and UFC, Brock Lesnar has often found himself at the center of heated situations. Long before his name was connected to any lawsuit, Brock Lesnar had already built a reputation for being involved in controversies that shaped his complicated legacy in both professional wrestling and mixed martial arts. One of the earliest examples goes back to his days in WWE's developmental system, Ohio Valley Wrestling, where former announcer Kenny Bolin claimed Lesnar was kicked out for inappropriate behavior, including an incident involving a co-worker's girlfriend. This early episode hinted at the behavioral issues that would occasionally follow him throughout his career. Another infamous controversy tied to Lesnar was his involvement in the notorious plane ride from hell in 2002, a WWE charter flight returning from a European tour that became infamous for the wild and inappropriate conduct of several stars on board. Although Lesnar wasn't singled out as one of the main offenders, in later reports and documentaries about the infamous plane ride from hell, simply being on that flight forever tied him to one of wrestling's most notorious backstage scandals. His career in the UFC also brought its own share of controversy, especially when it came to accusations of steroid use. With his massive frame and explosive power, doubts had always lingered, and those suspicions were fueled in 2016 when he failed drug tests tied to his UFC 200 fight against Mark Hunt. Lesnar originally won the bout, but the result was later overturned to a no contest after he tested positive for clomiphene, a banned substance. The fallout damaged his standing in the MMA world and cast a shadow over the legitimacy of his accomplishments in combat sports. While these incidents were serious, they are still overshadowed by the weight of the current lawsuit, though together they paint a picture of Lesnar as a star who has repeatedly found himself linked to controversy throughout his career. This history adds another layer of complexity to how WWE fans see his current situation, and their reactions to Lesnar's absence from the 2025 Royal Rumble have been very mixed. On Reddit, especially in post-Rumble discussion threads, many fans admitted they were disappointed not to see him, with comments like, "I was hoping for Brock to make a surprise entry. It would have been epic," showing that despite the allegations, a large part of the fan base still values Lesnar as a performer and would cheer for his return. Others took a more balanced stance, recognizing the seriousness of the accusations while still separating the man from the on-screen character. At the same time, some fans speculated that WWE might be finished with him altogether, leaving remarks such as, "It feels like they're done with him after all the drama." This mixed reaction shows that fans understand the legal and reputational challenges WWE is dealing with, while also proving just how much Lesnar has meant to the product over the years. His rare mix of real athletic credibility, intimidating size, and surprising agility made him one of the most captivating performers in modern wrestling. His matches always stood out from the typical WWE style, more physical, more unpredictable, and often carrying a sense of real danger. Many fans felt that without Brock, the Royal Rumble simply didn't feel as special, since it has so often been a stage where he left his mark, whether by tossing out multiple opponents in rapid succession or making shocking returns that stole the spotlight. Still, others argued his absence was for the best, given his track record, showing that some fans recognize the weight of the allegations and want WWE to send a stronger message against misconduct. This divide in the fan base mirrors the wider wrestling. Communities struggle with how to react when serious. Misconduct allegations involve stars they've emotionally invested in. On X, formerly Twitter, the reactions were just as split. Some voiced strong disapproval, with one user bluntly saying they hoped Brock, Vince, and Laurinaitis all rot in hell, showing just how intense the backlash has become. Others expressed a sense of betrayal, with comments like, "I used to love him as the Beast, but now, I'm done. Can't support someone involved in this mess," highlighting how these allegations have shifted perceptions and made some fans walk away from supporting him. The debate over Lesnar's absence has moved beyond simple fan preferences, and now touches on deeper questions about accountability and redemption in entertainment. Many pointed out that WWE's decision likely came down to reputation management, with fans calling for his removal and insisting he knew what was going on, underscoring the pressure on the company to take the allegations seriously. On the other hand, some fans have defended Lesnar, pointing out that he's been married to Sable for nearly 20 years and suggesting he might not have fully understood the criminal nature of what was happening. Others emphasized that his role in the allegations seemed limited, noting that text messages showed Vince sending him a picture of the victim and Lesnar responding positively, but with no actual meeting taking place because of a snowstorm, which may soften how some view his involvement. Interestingly, the Times of India even published an article titled 3 Reasons Why WWE Should Bring Brock Lesnar to the 2025 Men's Royal Rumble match, showing that despite the controversy, there was still strong interest in seeing him return. From a business perspective, it's clear Lesnar remains a huge draw whose presence would instantly boost viewership and create buzz. But WWE chose to protect its reputation rather than chase those short-term gains. What makes the situation even more complicated is the uncertainty around his future, with some wrestling journalists speculating that WWE could be holding off until the legal case settles before considering a return for one of its biggest attractions. Others, like a Reddit user who said, "He'll never get the stink of this off him. It's over. believe the damage to Brock's reputation is beyond repair. But his sudden removal from the spotlight is only one piece of a much larger, darker puzzle. Because this scandal isn't just about one man's name, it shines a light on deeper cracks in WWE's foundation. To truly grasp what's at stake, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. The allegations against Vince McMahon, which indirectly pull Lesnar into the storm, are part of a scandal that has already reshaped WWE's leadership. In January 2024, Janelle Grant's lawsuit accused McMahon of forcing her into a sexual relationship to keep her job and even using WWE resources to traffic her to others. A revelation that has left the company facing one of its greatest crises. The allegations were so serious that they forced Vince McMahon to resign as executive chairman of TKO Group, WWE's parent company, on January 26, 2024. This wasn't the first time controversy had pushed him out of power. Back in June 2022, WWE's board investigated a $3 million hush money payment and uncovered that McMahon had actually made $12 million in secret payouts to 4 women, 2 of whom accused him of sexual misconduct. That investigation led to his initial retirement as CEO in July 2022, though he managed to return as executive chairman in January 2023 during WWE's sale process. But McMahon's actions carried consequences beyond the Grant lawsuit. On January 10, 2025, the SEC announced he had agreed to pay a $400,000 fine and reimbursed WWE $1.3 million for false accounting tied to undisclosed NDAs, including a $7.5 million payment in 2019 and the $3 million paid to Grant in 2022. This settlement confirmed that McMahon failed to properly disclose these deals, adding yet another layer to his mounting legal troubles. The allegations against McMahon go far beyond his dealings with Grant. Over the decades, he has faced multiple controversies, from the 1990s steroid scandal, where he was indicted but later acquitted, to accusations of enabling abuse within WWE, including allegedly covering up domestic violence cases involving wrestlers like Steve Austin. Together, these incidents point to a troubling pattern of behavior that stretches across McMahon's entire career. Lesnar's alleged role in the current scandal, while smaller compared to McMahon's, still underscores the complicated power dynamics that existed within WWE during McMahon's reign. As one of the company's top stars, Lesnar occupied a privileged spot, and according to the allegations, McMahon exploited that position during contract negotiations in deeply inappropriate ways. This raises a bigger question. Just how much has WWE's culture really changed since McMahon stepped down? The amended lawsuit suggests the problems may run deeper, pointing to claims that WWE's own legal department was highly reactive and retaliatory, evidence that the issues may be systemic, not just tied to one man. Grant's attorney, Ann Callis, described WWE as having a culture of corruption, raising questions about just how deeply these problems are rooted within the company. Today, WWE is led by Paul Triple H Levesque as Chief Content Officer, responsible for guiding both the creative vision and, ideally, the culture of the business. Yet his response to the lawsuit has been surprisingly muted. At a press conference, he claimed he hadn't read it, despite the fact that it involved his father-in-law and the grandfather of his children. Many criticized this as tone-deaf given the seriousness of the allegations. Triple H's position is further complicated by his marriage to Stephanie McMahon, Vince's daughter, putting him at the center of a conflict between family loyalty and professional responsibility. The McMahon scandal, along with Lesnar's link to it, sheds light on larger issues within the wrestling industry tied to power, accountability, and workplace culture. Wrestling has long carried a reputation for troubling behavior behind the scenes, and this case, because of its visibility, may become a turning point that forces real change. So what does all of this mean for the future of WWE and for Brock Lesnar's place within it? For WWE, the post-McMahon era presents both challenges and opportunities. Under Triple H's leadership, the company has seen a creative revival, with many fans praising the more wrestling-focused product compared to McMahon's often bizarre creative choices. During McMahon's later years, WWE's TV ratings declined more sharply than general industry trends, suggesting his vision was losing touch with audiences. The 2023 merger with UFC to form TKO also placed WWE within a larger sports entertainment empire, potentially giving the company more stability, resources, and accountability than it had under McMahon's sole ownership. As for Lesnar, his future is far less clear. Being named in the lawsuit doesn't automatically end his career, but it has made things far more complicated. WWE seems to be taking a cautious stance, keeping him off television while the legal process continues, but without officially cutting ties. This suggests that WWE is leaving the door open for Lesnar's possible return if and when the controversy dies down. The timing of the amended lawsuit that named him, filed just one day before the 2025 Royal Rumble, was especially damaging from WWE's perspective. As had it come even a week later, Lesnar might have appeared at the event, potentially changing both the show's direction and the path of his career. Beyond the immediate fallout, these allegations could have a lasting impact on Lesnar's legacy. Before this, he was celebrated as one of the most dominant performers in WWE history, with the rare credibility of also being a former UFC champion. Now, his story carries a complicated asterisk that may forever change how fans and the industry judge his contributions. This situation also underscores how legal proceedings can reshape entertainment careers. The lawsuit itself was paused from June to December 2024 at the request of the U.S. Department of Justice, pending a federal investigation, proof of how seriously authorities are treating these claims, with the potential for criminal charges beyond the civil suit. Then, in March 2025, Janelle Grant filed a reply brief challenging attempts by McMahon, WWE, and Laurinaitis to block the amended complaint, ensuring that the case and its ripple effects will continue to unfold. Grant's legal team argued that new developments, including the SEC's findings against McMahon for failing to disclose hush money payments, should be factored into the case. The defendants, however, are fighting to move the matter into private arbitration, pointing to a January 2022 NDA involving a $1 million payout. These ongoing legal battles will likely shape WWE's decisions regarding both McMahon and Lesnar for months, if not years, to come. The eventual outcome could have wide-reaching effects on the wrestling industry, potentially forcing stricter policies around workplace conduct and accountability. Yet, despite all the turmoil, it doesn't seem like we've seen the last of Brock Lesnar in WWE. When asked about his absence and the possibility of a return, Lesnar was spotted at a steakhouse in Austin, Texas, and gave only a short but telling answer. We'll see. For now, that's the only public comment he's made. He has stayed silent on both the lawsuit and the Royal Rumble, but that vague reply suggests the door isn't completely shut. As for the McMahon family, they remain very much in the spotlight, just no longer inside the ring. On March 3rd, 2025, Linda McMahon was officially sworn in as the new United States Secretary of Education after a tight 51-45 Senate vote. Her appointment is part of President Donald Trump's broader plan to reduce federal control over education and shift more power back to state and local governments. But as with most things connected to the McMahon family, the move has sparked plenty of backlash. Critics point to Linda's lack of experience in education, noting that her background as WWE's former CEO makes her an unusual choice for the role. Adding to the controversy, her proposal to slash nearly half of the Department of Education's workforce has drawn heavy criticism from educators, unions, and policy experts across the country. So, between Brock Lesnar's uncertain WWE future, Vince McMahon's ongoing legal battles, and Linda McMahon's sudden rise in politics, one thing is clear: this story is far from over. Thank you for watching.